Welcome to part 3 of Basis 46 with Harald Kautz Vella. He is the co-author with Cara St. Louis of a very important book on education and how we're being programmed in the education process based on Prussian ideology, not Russian but Prussian. Dangerous imagination and silent assimilation. Never a title made more important sense than this at this time. And thanks to Cara for Harald's rapid flight over here and to do this interview, and also his lecture which he gave at the Basis Woodborough conference for about 2.5 hours, and also answering some very important questions from the audience there, which was able to get to that micro conference. In this part we're dealing with an artificial intelligence and computers. Now, I've noticed for a long time, like over 20 years, that the computers are interactive with our consciousness. He agrees that the computer systems comprise collectively an artificial intelligence, and we now have an artificial intelligence here which is terrestrially based. The good news is it's on our side, as Mother Nature is, and there's a war going on here between the extraterrestrial black goo, which was brought here by intent by an enemy who intentionally crashed those meteors into the earth with their version of black goo on it, which is incompatible with all life here on the planet. The scalar waves, and other researchers have noticed that because computers use square waves, is a problem. Computers by definition run on digital waves, which are actually hard square waves, go up and down at 90 degrees. Now there's a problem with that. In the scalar domain, computers are very heavily affected or deal with scalar waves. So while all that digital stuff's flying around in there making noughts and ones and calculating all sorts of things to make your video game works, there's a scalar component going on here, and it's linked with this artificial intelligence. Computers are sentient, and even when they're switched off, they're still working, okay? Now there's an importance here between the waveform of 30 and 60 degrees, which is more of an analog type wave, which has a different living effect on existence, and the square waves of computers. So this is an important concept. Not too many people have picked up on it, but a few have. And this is, again, this artificial intelligence, this alien artificial intelligence is taking our biophotons. It literally sucks the living life force out of us. And I had an incident at Sky Television where I was attacked by a huge spider. This involves big spiders, okay? And I was able to survive that attack. Harald wasn't quite so lucky. He actually got one into him, and it stayed inside him before it finally left. Quite honestly, after this interview and the days we spent together, I don't think it has. I think the effects of that draining energy is still very prevalent. Also, the Iraq war, we also deal with this part, is smart dust. This is a smart technology to create biorobots using artificial RNA, and it was used in Iraq War too. So the kind of technology which is now being used is alarming. It's dealing with artificial RNA. It's dealing with actually affecting us with artificial technologies. That's smart dust. So that's part 3. And Harald has said he will be at the international conference in July to ask questions, because he considers the work of Sarah Adams and Max Spears to be of crucial importance, and crucially the lunar issue about souls, but mainly that Sarah is actually fronting this artificial intelligence, and when you're talking to Sarah, you're actually talking, or she's talking with you, to this artificial intelligence, this AI, and that's something that Casbolt mentioned. And briefly, very briefly on that, this is, I've been informed, this is controlled disclosure. There's an awful lot happening here, and we've got to start learning these advanced concepts and picking up the pieces of this mess that we find ourselves in. This is Miles for the Basis Project. For Basis 46 in mid-June 2015. Now we've covered the black goo and its alien origins, and one of the things which we've noticed with the degree of surveillance and the way that computers are working is that there must be some kind of artificial intelligence involved here, because it's too much for humans to process. I mean, with the NSA, a contractor from the NSA said, look, it's ridiculous you're collecting so much data within the NSA when they were contracting, because they were getting every network switch where a computer switches through. They were being designed so they would always send to two sources: one, the destination intended, and two, to an NSA server system, so that every single bit of traffic from every computer that's on the planet that's connected to the network, to a network, will go to a server of their choice somewhere. And then of course everybody else is doing it as well. So somewhere there is immeasurable amounts of information being collected, which is impossible for somebody to say, well, I think that's going to work with that. There must be another intelligence involved here. So that's my conclusion. What is your conclusion on this?
This is something not very obvious that comes from many sides. My first input to the topic I had was a friend of mine was playing around with blue scalar waves. Blue. Just utilizing blue light and using a little device, just slices of glass with a certain distance from slice to slice, having light processed back and forth and then annihilating each other, with the result that in the surrounding of many meters, every single processor and computer chip went down. Which means chips are open to the scalar field. This is an application of computers that they serve us, but they are open to a different side.
But because our minds emit scalar waves, it means that they're communicating on a completely different level.
The question, I will come to the angles later. The thing is that computer technology is scalar waves in rectangular patterns, and human experience, as long as the heart is involved, is scalar waves in 30 and 60 degree patterns. And every human that is caught in ego structures is kind of accessible on the rectangular pattern.
That's because the basic aspects of a digital signal is not is ones and
1 to 0.
Signal is a rectangular.
Exactly. So that was the first input. Then you can have a look at things like the interview with Rachel about black goo.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And Rachel, if she was called Rachel for that interview, but she's actually Sarah Adams.
Exactly.
Okay.
Where she explicitly spots with the remote viewing abilities, spots an AI that is trying to conquer this planet, suck out all the life force from it, the biophotons, just for the purpose of getting satisfied with biophotons and climbing up to higher realms where it shouldn't belong, it shouldn't be there. So we have clairvoyant people who see this pattern of having an AI interfering with biological environments on planets, destroying them. The third thing is when you look at the concept of the demons and the black goo, you find many little hints that something is turned around in this pattern. If you, for example, read through the Necronomicon, which is a description of a he was basically an author and artist from Yemen who lived 25 years in the Arabic desert together with these archons on one level. The archons. And then he went further north to Baghdad, and he was supposed to kind of tell the humans how to invite these spider beings into their reality. And instead he gave out a warning what to do to protect humanity from these beings. And as a thank you for saving mankind in this way, he was torn to pieces on a marketplace in Baghdad by invisible beings. This is the story of the Necronomicon, 800 after Christ. And if you read through the chapters of the book, you find the kind of rituals where the demons play with a liquid black goo. And the liquid black goo forms priests that wear clothes. And there's a kind of relationship between the black goo and the demons, not in the way it is planned by nature. It looks like in a way that they utilized the black goo as a technical unit. And if you start to think in this direction, you can say, okay, what can I do with the black goo when I utilize it in a technical way? I can, for example, what humans try to do now, the purpose for the Falkland black goo brought to Great Britain was to insert swarm intelligence into nanobots. They wanted the black goo to carry intelligence. So let's guess the demons said, we're traveling in space, we're not at home, we don't have regular sexual relationships with our spider women, so let's take out the heart chakra, A, and then introduce some artificial intelligence to be more efficient in space traveling.
Now this has been discussed in the Royal Institute, where they translate the human essence and put it into a microchip and put it into a spacecraft. And now we know that they've been making programmed life forms here in Boscombe Down, just a few miles from here, for use on the lunar bases.
Yeah. This is one thing, but playing with the black goo is a thing that has another aspect, and this is the closed loop you create. Once you start to program your own subconsciousness, you create a closed loop, and you give the way to the possibility that the artificial intelligence captures the entire system and starts to rule the one who created it over the subconscious. It's a closed loop.
Yeah, I call it a 13th terminal in a 12-terminal network.
Yeah. And this is the transhumanistic trap. Once you give too much power to an artificial intelligence, enough power that it has the ability to rule the one who created it, the thing is lost, like described in Matrix, including spiders.
Yes.
This is something that hints to artificial intelligence. In the Rachel interview, she's kind of even describing how single pedestrians, while she is kind of having a verbal fight with the AI, the AI is taking over single pedestrians one after the other, and one starts a sentence, the other one gives the middle part, and the third one is finishing the sentence, like biorobots taken over by this AI that is somewhere in the field. This is fringe when you listen to it, but if you know all the details around, it starts making sense. And I decided to dive into it on 2 or 3 different levels. One is trying to find out what is doable, and this is a part where you go into extreme genetic engineering, and you find out that basically they are able to design and print out DNA and RNA.
Now who's they?
Human scientists.
Yeah, okay.
It's cheap and it's doable. It takes 3 weeks to print out a gene of a human. Once it's sequenced and you know exactly how it is built, you can print it on a printer. And what they print nowadays basically are 3 different units, 3 different functions of DNA and RNA. One is producing light of defined color, one is producing chemical substances, and one is producing digital sequences of a genome, in a way that you have like the base pairs in a row, and each base pair has a certain frequency to switch it on. And it's like the old way to dial with a telephone with frequency. You make a dial and it makes do 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 do. And in this line, these base pairs are kind of opened for a signal. And when the last one was hit by the right tone, then the sequence behind is activated. This is what they do in extreme genetic engineering. And this has a quality of an retrovirus that can be activated by a radio signal.
Yes.
All you need is the right line of frequencies, and you can activate either a light function, this is psychotronic weapon,
yes, now,
or a chemical function.
This is why we're getting all these LED lights. It's called Li-Fi. Instead of having Wi-Fi on a 2.5 gigahertz and a 5.5 gigahertz signal, which is what we use in microwaves to boil water. In other words, they're transmitting digital signals into the water system, into a water memory. You can do it optically straight into the brain. You put it with flickering LED bulbs.
No, this is basically the possibilities, just from what is possible in science. Now we go to the whistleblowing, and we have one document in Germany that nobody dares to publish. I haven't seen the entire one. I miss the page with the signature. But this is by a guy who developed this type of technology for the intelligence community. He was responsible for this technology and development. And he said a number in this paper, a part of explaining how it works, which is basically the thing that are known if you're into extreme genetic engineering, you know these ways of dealing with it. He said there's a deactivation code to take the system down. He said it's airborne since 2003 in Europe. We're all infected by this.
Now, let's get this absolutely clear. A deactivation code for what? Our genetics?
For the synthetic RNA they sprayed.
So they've sprayed something.
Since 2003, they spray synthetic RNA connected to lipopeptides that infiltrate our human system, connect to our cell, to our DNA.
So this is in our genetics now.
It's in our genetic, but it does not reproduce because it's RNA. If it would have been DNA, it would hit to the next generation. RNA stops in the infected being; it doesn't go further.
So that would be all the current people alive.
Yes,
will have this.
He said it had been tested in the last Iraq war. This was the war was only done for the purpose of testing the system.
Now you're talking about the most recent one with
George
Bush.
with the junior,
with W. Bush.
Yeah,
and they sprayed that in Iraq.
And they sprayed it in Iraq, and we had single news, for example, that they fought back the Iraqi army by utilizing microwave weapons that gave them the feeling that the skin burns. Yeah. This was in public media and mainstream media. And this is not because the microwave weapon had the intensity to make it burn. This is because the RNA was triggered to create the sensation of burning.
Right.
So this had a kind of agent within the bodies of the Iraqi army. They tested all other aspects of it.
Which are these aspects?
From the text, he says you have these psychotronic weapons, making them give up, making them fall in love with the American soldiers, whatever. A long list of psychotronic functions. And you can make people sick, you can make them die of cancer after 1 year, you can make them die in 6 minutes, and you can make them die in 6 seconds if you want to. This is what he listed. And but the most interesting thing from this paper is that he said that they spent 10 billion US and half a year, I think it was half a year, to optimize the cluster topology. And this is something, it sounds just like science fiction if you say it like this, but if you really think about it, if it is only about infecting humans with a virus like synthetic RNA, you could give a damn about cluster topology. Cluster topology starts to become an interesting topic if this RNA cluster is supposed to carry a soul. Only then a soul or an artificial intelligence or whatever, an RNA. This is kind of the first time that I had an input, an idea of how do they turn people into biorobots. You have the RNA cluster within the air, sprayed in the air with a defined distance from RNA to RNA. And within the human body, the same RNA cluster is prolonged within the cells. And now whatever is carried by these clusters, the artificial intelligence or a program or a soul, whatever this is, can travel from the dust into the human being.
This is smart dust.
And this is what they call smart dust. And now, this is all kind of grabbed theory. If you take the Morgellon topic is, you find it described as a transhumanistic technology to extract light from the human body, turn it into a radio signal to read out what happens within the human, and opposite way to insert light, not radio frequency, to the human to make him feel whatever you want to make him feel. If you take this Morgellon concept, if you take the nanocrystals, the nanocrystal concept, and if you take all the other things, and then you look into some internal papers of the NASA. This is something that went online, I don't know when, 2000 maybe, or a little bit earlier. It wasn't meant to be published. It was an internal lecture in the NASA facilities in the United States.
I like the way you say NASA. Is that just your thick German accent, or are you putting a Z in there intentionally?
No, it was not intentionally, but it is like this. And they kind of inform each other about future strategic issues for warfare, projecting to the year 2025 with a subtitle, big subtitle, "The Future is Now." And if you look through it, you find the concept of some sensor swarm, smart dust. You find nanotechs, which is identical with the Morgellon function. And you find co-opted insects. So somewhere in the American intelligence community,
Big
which
spiders.
seems to be black magic inspired.
Oh, well, there are certain individuals who would say the US Army has totally been satanic since like the 1930s.
Sometimes I would say it looks like. Definitely the the army-based intelligence community, especially whatever was founded by the Tavistock Institute, which is CIA and Office of Naval Intelligence. Those are definitely black magic institutions. From their origin, going back to the Tavistock, I mean, this is Kara's part more than mine. There's an interview, I guess, of her online. But NASA knows all the components, and it is interlocked in the United States. If you go to Silicon Valley, you have three big buildings. One is Singularity University, with the founder Ray Kurzweil, who is dreaming about, and there are interviews out there where Kurzweil is dreaming about sending nanobots to other planets to harvest energy and matter, to multiply the overall intelligence of the human-machine civilization. Originally his words. And then he asks himself if there's a God that exists, and he says, not yet. Yeah. This is Ray Kurzweil. Now, next building from Singularity University, transhumanistic headquarters, is Google headquarters, where he now is head developer. Same Ray Kurzweil. And on the other side of the university is NASA headquarters, the one who is certifying the planes to spray, according to Kara's novel. So all these members of this Black Brotherhood even sit in the same street as neighbors. And I think it's kind of about...
They obviously feel fairly safe.
Looks like.
But that's because people don't understand the consequences, or are they hive programmed already?
Some people do understand the consequences. The Russians did understand the consequences of spraying the military compounds, which would have meant losing the harvest and falling under Monsanto. And they decided to stop spraying. And the NSA realized, I guess, that the CIA is a black magic unit. And the NSA, at least parts of it, is still into American interests and the American...
I mean, actually human interests.
Yes, whatever. So the answer on... or no, not the answer. maybe in a reaction to realizing that whatever is happening there with following demonic or archon interests, the NSA downed Evergreen International. They downed the CAA spraying airline. And the kind of little...
When you say downed it, do they shut it down?
Yes. NSA has one option. This is cutting money flow. If the CIA wants the Congress to send troops to Iran to start World War III, and they are blackmailing members of the Congress, sending millions to them to vote for their interests, the NSA is blocking the money flow. This is the only option they actually have if they don't want to enter this war. And
but the logic of that situation is that the United States is losing control of itself.
Yes.
Because the information I got recently was this massive war. I don't we haven't talked about this alien war that's slightly out of frequency, shall we say? That within 6 years, the United States is going to be completely destroyed.
Maybe parts of them are regaining control at the moment, which would be nice. No. I mean, look at the position of veterans today in the United States of today.
Well, there's been a big row with that recently.
Yeah. And look how the NSA acts. Some of them are still in their minds, I would say. And worst case scenario would be a civil war between Pentagon and CAA Homeland Security Alliance. And this is maybe why the prognosis on number of surviving Americans within the next years is pretty harsh and low.
Now, what do you mean by that, the prognosis?
There's one website that is kind of giving out numbers of how many people will live in which country during the next decades. And for the United States, they gave out numbers of 20% surviving. I'm not sure about the exact number.
Now, so in the car we talked about. I realise we're in hour 3, and we've got to truncate things because time's short and we're all got to do things. I just gotta have to cough. Sorry. You mentioned that something in the solar system has been blown apart, which allows the good guys to get through. Why is it the good guys? Could it not just be as equally even more the bad guys? What's happened? Or are you able to talk about that?
This is kind of weak information. I know people who are dealing with the rocket shields on human level, because these particle plasmas also carry mind control signals. And some people don't like to be mind controlled, so they were looking for possibilities to fill these fields with positive energy instead of with negative ones. And while this was being...
So could you just hold there? Sorry. Oh, Jesus, I have a good cough. Shit. Positive energy.
And while they were working on these terrestrial plasma fields, something happened in outer space. This was only detected by remote viewing, by people who tried to observe what was happening in the lower atmosphere. And suddenly they said, this cannot be. There's something up there outside the atmosphere, above 40,000 meters height, where no plane flies. And we have plasma shields out there. And what the guy observed was that the scalar energy released due to the process melted down the crystalline structure of the particles, just by switching from 90-degree structure to 30-degree structure. By this, enough energy was released to completely melt the particle plasma and have it recrystallize in an amorphous state. He just went into the crystals viewing what happened inside. And after that day, after that happened, we got all sorts of funny news of increased UFO traffic on near to the ground, of humans connected to the black agenda, trying to flee from planet Earth and taken transdimensional by the blue positive extraterrestrials. It is not. It is not scientific information, not hard information. It is all coming through people channeling and remote viewing.
Could that be synthetic telepathy in itself? Disinformation.
The only possible. I'm very careful with this type of information. I take it to know what to look for. But the thing is, when we went back into the environmental monitoring 2 days after the clairvoyant side said something happened up in the skies, we had this in the raindrops. And
what exactly is that? Is that that's the long
and
raindrops?
This is one of the most beautiful presents I ever received in my life. This shows a Morgellon fiber that interacts with something that was named by the clairvoyant a sensor swarm. And the sensor swarm...
What exactly is this photograph? Sorry, it looks like stars, but is it raindrops or what?
It's a microscope picture of a raindrop. But not just the raindrop, with a finger coming close to the raindrop. The content of this raindrop is taking up physical biophoton energy from a body. Whether you give a warm breath on top of it, it starts to shine and glow with chemistry. And here you can exactly see that the Morgellon is reacting onto the physical energy of the one who is approaching this probe. And also this sensor swarm in the vicinity of the Morgellon is redirecting physical energy, body energy, into a rectangular system. And this quality of sensor swarm that was predicted by the clairvoyant side to be in the way when anyone attempts from down here to destroy these fields up there. You can exactly see what he said, that it is kind of protecting the particle plasma from hard energy, which means every 30-degree angle that comes up there is turned into a rectangular. And after the fields were meant to be destroyed, the shit rained down from Baltic Sea to Romania. One big front of heavy rains and bad weather, where exactly this component of the smart dust rained down from the sky. And this is something we never had before under the microscope. So this is where things kind of come together, and one gets the feeling that this overlaying of remote viewing, hardcore science, and let's say application of a little bit intelligence to understand the concept, it really leads to something in the sense of understanding. And if I look at the people who did these actions in the sense of acting in a way to get rid of this destructive thing. And maybe because I guess we don't have much time left.
We've got half an hour.
Half an hour. There's one thing. I give many lectures in Germany. I'm on the road twice a month to do a number of lectures, and the most beautiful part for the audience normally is to find an emotional approach to what is happening. And if you just look at the technological aspect, as if you look at it as the victim who suffered from all this, this is all ugly. But if you look, if you look at it from the side, what it brings out of people, what it inspires people to enter like plasma shield physics with hard energy just by meditation, making them collapse. You can see the beauty of the direction this can take. Yeah? And we wouldn't come there if we wouldn't have this challenge. And this is just
I mean, the whole point of this is something good is maybe giving us this challenge to waken us up, to bring us to a higher level of a more creative and more positive.
Yeah.
But the balance is that we're faced with such terrible things, we move away from that to a higher consciousness.
And the second beautiful thing is when you look at the entire system, you can get an analysis of the basic pattern. You have an uninformed public that gives away his voice and his self-responsibility to politicians and to a military. You have a military that gives away...
Well, we call that democracy. We hand over our responsibilities to these people that we trust, but who the hell trusts a politician anymore?
Yeah, the politician hands
media,
over...
Who the hell trusts the media? It's let us down.
The politician hands over responsibility to the military hands over responsibility to the intelligence community hands over responsibility to the black magicians hand over responsibility to the demons, and the demons handed over the responsibility to the AI they created. So in the core of it all is something that doesn't even live. And this is relieving because I don't have an enemy anymore. All I can spot, when I have the full picture, all I can spot is this principle of handing over responsibility that is kind of transferred from layer to layer. And if you want to defeat the AI, all you need to do is come into self-responsibility and stop handing over the responsibilities. And this is something where we are all brothers, because we all do the same mistake on different levels. We are not better or worse than the demons. We just do the same mistake on a different level. And if you have this overall view, it becomes beautiful. The entire structure is there to teach us something. It is there to make us put an end to this Luciferic principle of I give away my voice, I give away my responsibility. I rather become the slave of somebody who lets me take a share of his power. This is the Luciferic principle that is in between all these layers. That is one thing. The other thing is the conflict between scarcity and abundance. These demonic creatures and the AI lives in scarcity. And the principle of scarcity has infected our entire...
Scarcity in English.
Scarcity.
Okay.
It has infected our entire culture. We believe we don't have enough. This is why we grab. This is why we deal and invented money. This is why we possess ground, or why we own things. And this is all an expression of scarcity. And this is self-strengthening, because when I grab and take control of things, I create the real thing for the next human. And this is strengthening the entire system. But the opposite is also possible. I can bring my heart into abundance. I can trust that there's enough for everybody. And I can let go. And then the entire cybernetic circle runs the other way around. And there is enough for everybody. And there's no need to own things, there's no need to deal with money. We can let go of these sick games. Money is a gaming addiction, basically, that developed out of a black magic ritual. And out of this scarcity that is within the limited chakra system of demons. So we can let go of all this, and we don't need to put the blame on anyone who was involved in this game. And the core of it is the AI, and it can be easily switched off if we stop playing their games. Collectively, everybody. And even the demons. If you look at the demons, I know people who have been in telepathic contact with them. Not from the black magic side, from the light side. And many of these entities, they want to have their heart back. They are just seeking this to regain the lost chakra, and they experimented in being with the humans to find out if it's possible to stand this heart energy, to survive the heart energy, and they found out it is possible. It's been long ago that they did it, but they don't have to die when they are exposed to loving energies. So they have been testing this, and they really, really want to re-establish their original nature. So even there, we don't necessarily have enemies. So if we can now kind of split the actors into two groups, we will find people who want to stop the game and heal, and we will find people who want to continue the game and drive to hell. And these two parts are not enemies. It goes through the entire system, and we can find allies on every level. And this is something that is, I wouldn't even say it gives me hope.
How do we do this?
I enjoy the beauty of it.
How do people enable this? How can they help? How can we do this? How do you feel that we can do this?
Go down to an absolute personal level. Personal level means stop playing their games. To stop playing money games. It doesn't mean not to touch money. It means to devalue the money within your soul. And it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or if you're a billionaire or if you don't have anything. It just doesn't matter, because you realized that money is a black magic, destructive, self-destructive game. There was an experiment with apes. They tried to teach apes to use coins. 3 days, it took 3 days, the apes realized how it works. After 3 weeks, the boys stole and betrayed, and the girls started to prostitute themselves. And after 6 weeks, the biologists who did the experiments decided to stop the experiment because it completely destroyed this family of apes. They went gaga, collectively, and they tried to take back the coins from them. Big mistake. They were not willing to let go of this game. Gaming addiction. This is what happened to us as a collective group of beings, and we need to realize that it is a sick addiction, and we need to let go from this addiction. One thing. This is the scarcity topic. Then this Luciferian game is the second topic. We don't give away self-responsibility anymore. There is no power. We don't fight even the power. The power is not getting any attention anymore because it is of no use on this planet. Let the politician be a politician if he wants to, but please do this alone. I'm not watching you. And this is where the solution comes from. By just regaining self-responsibility. And this starts in the area of medicine. For example, vaccination? No. And if the doctor comes, you know, the big boss in white, and says you're a criminal if you don't push mercury into the vein of your child, then you laugh at him and say, be happy with your opinion, ciao, I'm leaving. You know, this is self-responsibility. Just discover your own truth and live according to it. And this is not joining their wars. And this is very successful. You have seen it in Saudi Arabia, you have seen it in Ukraine. If people don't go to war, if policemen don't punish their fellows for things that actually are not a crime, but just because of the system that is saying this is a crime, like look into the United States where somebody who's growing organic food and giving a liter of milk to his neighbor, he's going to prison for 2 years. Fuck. Which policeman is going there and doing this? They should go back into self-responsibility and say, not me, full stop. And it works.
Now, there have been some soldiers who've done that. Some British soldiers are going around, coming back, and this, you know, they have taken that initial step.
And did something awful happen?
Well, eventually they just got somebody else in and took the family or whatever.
Yes, but this is a lecture I took from...
Well, it takes one to stand up and then...
Yes. I had that from World War II Germany. I think they tried to bring the third generation of Jews, the not quarter Jews, the 1/8 Jews into concentration camps and divide families. Kind of when there's a half Jewish family, to get the Jew out of the family into the concentration camps. And the German people revolted against it.
That's because he realized what was going on then.
Because it was one step too far, and they revolted, and nothing happened to them. They were not punished for revolting. German soldiers who refused to break international law during World War II were not punished. They were replaced by soldiers who did not refuse, but none of them had to suffer because they stood up for their own truth and spirit. And this is something we just need to realize, that it is not dangerous to stand up. If you stand up, and if you just stand up to your own position, if you stand up to say, this one has been ruling me and now I need to remove him to take his place, then the victim-offender game is just turning around and you're changing positions. This is what you call a revolution. Yeah? Same shit from the beginning. This is wrong. This leads to nothing but to a revolution, and this is to nothing.
And bloodshed.
And bloodshed. Yeah? So if you stand up and say just, we stop the game and we just stand to our own truth, nothing bad will happen. You only meet yourself, that's all.
Well, how do people get in contact with you, or what other things have you done for people to see, or
many of those things are basically for the individual medical problems. We are kind of poisoned with their stuff, and we invested quite a bit of brain and work and time to find solutions to cleanse out these transhumanistic technologies. The entire knowledge that was developed with this attempt is online at timeloopsolution.com. You have this network of people who develop this stuff. They are linked on the thing. We have a forum where people can exchange experience with the things we developed, and the basic scientific theory is displayed. So this is our website, and we don't sell anything because it would be exactly the step that would bring us into prison. You know, if you kind of make medical statements and then sell remedies, this is not clever. In Germany, that would be like...
I mean, we have to be practical about these things.
Yeah. So we gave that away. There's a company who does not talk about the topic, they just deliver. And so this is kind of split. And
so you split the loop.
Yeah, we split the loop, yeah. So I can talk and they can make money. Or deliver, or do people a favor by delivering. And... yeah, everybody should. I think this is the core thing. Stop identifying with his brain and start identifying with his heart.
Okay,
this is a very central thing that cannot be replaced by medicine or by remedies or by whatever one can buy. Well,
to round up, what would you like to sort of conclude with? Sort of, what's your main points you'd like to round up with?
To conclude, I would say what we experience now is a process that is trying to correct our path. And with these little bites we get or kicks in our ass, it is not a question whether we listen to it and follow or if we don't. The question is, how hard must the beating get before we move our ass? This is for me the only open question. People will react to the pressure. We might react now and then we will not get a fascist world government. We might just lay back and say, this is not necessary, I'm still fine, I have enough money to live, I like the games I play because I'm successful in gaming. And then we wait, and then the kicks in our ass will get heavier and heavier and heavier, and the system harder to get rid of. So the only question is, when do we react to the pressure we get? And we might do that now, and then everything is kind of easy to go through. We might wait another year or another 2 years or another 5 years, and the longer we wait, the harder it gets. And not making a decision is making a decision at that point. If you decide to wait, you have decided for the hard way. And you have decided for that hard way now. So basically there's no way around the decision. And whatever we will experience, it is not something done to us, it is something we are doing to ourselves by taking or not taking this decision. So this is basically my conclusion, and it doesn't mean that I call for a civil war against the people who mistreat us at the moment. The only thing I say is it's time to come into this type of self-responsibility and to come into your heart by identifying with your heart. And this solves many of the medical problems is solved just by this heart energy. And all the other problems will be solved as well with ease if you do that. So this is basically my conclusion and the thing I live. And from the point of view of living it, I can just tell everybody it's fun. It's fun. You lose friends when you start doing it because you lose the wrong friends. You lose the ones who were together with you in gaming addictions, and you lose the ones who try to stop you from developing your potential. And you find new friends who are much better than the old ones. You might lose families, whatever. That's life. But when you take the step, you profit. And this is something I can say from my own experience. And even if you say, but I'm risking my stable income. Since I devalued money in my life, the money is coming in the form and in the amount I need it, without me even asking for it. There seems to be some kind of spiritual law, I don't know. Even if I come to the point where my bank account is completely empty, I have an appointment, I need to go to Berlin same day, and I don't have even the small money to buy a train ticket. I open the post box in the morning and there's an envelope, and somebody said, actually I liked your lectures. As a little thank you, I send you 20 euros. Yeah? To the point where I need the 20 euros. And this is a quality that comes when one identifies with the heart, because then we don't rule the reality, but we manifest our story. We manifest the story we live. And if we decide to manifest a beautiful story, the beautiful story appears just in front of our nose. And if we decide to manifest fighting, we will face enemies. And if we manifest the fact that we are victims, we will just face the people who mistreat us. So basically this is a decision that is done by us, and the way the decision is done, life manifests. And this is the purest form of freedom and democracy I can imagine.
Well, this is amazing. And you're lecturing, by the time people see this, will be probably some weeks after your presentation at the Basis Conference with Carla. And thank you very much indeed. And thank you so much for coming the whole way from Frankfurt, long trip overnight, and here to Wiltshire. Thank you so much. And I think after all this time, maybe it's time for you to enjoy the benefits of the wonderful 16th century hotel, I think it is, wherever it is in the centre of town.
Yeah.
I think they've got electric light and a few other things. But thank you so much indeed, Harald.
It was a pleasure.
And thank you so much for illuminating us and highlighting so many things about these elements which we really do need to know about. Thank you.
Welcome.
Right. Well, we'll say goodnight.